And that's how I found my soulmate. I found my soulmate because I started to, all right, y'all. So I want to talk about soulmates and how to find your soulmate. Okay. So what I've realized is that every number has some sort of a pattern. And every person that you meet gives you a type of energy, like a type of feeling. And so that feeling that you get from specific types of people, that's a feeling that a lot of the times comes from that person's chart, whether that's their astrology, their numerology, essentially the psychology of that person is the energy that they're giving, the energy that you're feeling. Sometimes that deals with their parents, sometimes that deals with their trauma, sometimes that deals with where they're from. So essentially numerology and astrology and psychology doesn't get formed in a vacuum, right? It's everything is affecting a person, everything around them, their whole environment, all the people around them. However, you will start to see super easy tells of certain numbers that and certain signs with astrology that you're like, holy crap, you're going to start to guess people's numbers and guess people's astrology charts just based off of the vibe that you're getting from them. And this happens to me all the time. Literally just the other day, some woman and her daughter, I met them at the movie theater. And we just like hit it off. We were talking after because the daughter came up to me and she was like, "Oh, I love your style and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And I had some friends that were asking me to come out to eat. And I like literally, I was like, "Oh, if you guys want to come, if you guys want to join, if you're not doing anything," I literally invited this woman and her daughter to dinner. Random. So many random things happened to me. But, anyways, I invited them to dinner and I was talking to the daughter who she had to be probably like 20, probably 20, right? Like, or 19, something like that. And just the questions she was asking me, her confidence, her assertiveness, the way she walked up to me, everything about her screamed for energy. But at the same time, I was like, something else is in there. I felt like something else in there. And it's just me building over time, building an understanding for what fours are, for what every number is, right? So if you really want to get into this, if you really want to understand people, I'm telling you, numerology is the way. But something was screaming that she was a four to me, right? And then I was like, but it doesn't feel like a pure four. It feels like something else. So then I was like, she's very assertive, which if somebody's that assertive, they're coming up to you, they're like very outgoing, they're coming up to you, complimenting you, chances are they do have a one in their energy, right? But then she was so playful, she was so childlike, and that's the energy of a three. So I was like, it would make sense if she is a 1-3-4, right? Which is either you're born on the 13th or you're born on the 31st. But depending on which number goes first is the number that you are more. And I said, I felt like she was more assertive than playful. She felt more grounded, right? So I told her mom I love numerology, and we were all talking. She was like, guess her, guess her. And I said, to be honest, she screams four, but she doesn't scream pure four. She screams like, oh, a 1-3-4. So I feel like she's 1, 3, and 4, which means she's either 13th or 31st. And they looked at me like this. And I was like, but I don't feel like she's a 31st, because if she was a 31st, then she would have a little bit more sporadic energy as opposed to like groundedness and assertiveness, which she has the more grounded and assertive energy, confident energy. So I would say she's a 13. I kid you not, they both just were like, they looked at each other, they looked at me, they were like, what the hell? How did you do that? So I say this to say, not to brag, right? I say this to say it's actually real. Like, and that's how I found my soulmate. I found my soulmate because I started to develop a book, a playbook of different numbers that I would meet, right? Whenever I felt really drawn to someone, like naturally drawn to someone, I had to know their number, because I was like, I want to know what pulls me. I want to know what numbers pull me. I want to know what numbers excite me. I want to know what numbers I work well with. I want to know what numbers I enjoy to be around and that challenge me and that make me feel creative, right? What numbers I've created the most around or most with, right? What numbers I become obsessed with, what numbers make me feel on edge, what numbers make me feel judged, right? What numbers you want to learn the energies that serve you well, the energies that propel you to the next level, right? And then you want to surround yourself with those numbers, especially if that number happens to be your partner, your life partner. So I've noticed that there are certain numbers that I'm just like, whoa, who's that? Something about them make me feel alive, right? And you want that around you. Some numbers are a little bit taboo. Some numbers make you feel a little bit too on edge and too unsteady and too tense. Whatever those numbers are, whenever you feel that tension, ask that person their birthday. Whenever you feel that ooh ah, ask that person their birthday. Whenever you feel this like draw, even if it's the same sex, even if it's someone that is just a friend, you still want to know, because it's funny how one of my closest friends now, she's literally one of the best human beings I've ever met. She's like an angel. She's just like something about her energy, just like, oh, right? And when I first met her, I was like, wow. I ran to one of my guy friends who's my like who love him to death, right? And him and I have known each other for almost a decade at this point. But I ran to him and I was like, oh my gosh, I met this girl, and we were in Costa Rica at this time, right? So I was like, I met this girl and she's just so amazing. She's everything. Like, she's life. I'm like, if I were gay, I'd be in love. But I was like, but I'm like in love in like this like queendom, like goddess way. Like, I'm like, she's so wow, you know? And I was like, something about her is just like, whoa, like my mind is blown that I met somebody who's reminds me of myself, but also not myself. Also the parts of me that like there's parts of her that I don't have in me that complete a part of me, you know? And it turned out her day is a 29. I was like, that's crazy, because my ex was a 29, and I had another previous partner years and years ago, 10 years ago, who was close to a 29, a 30. And my first love was a 27. We were together for like 5 years. But I started to notice like a pattern that anybody within those last couple of days of the year, something about like it was 27, 29, 30th, and 31st. Something about those numbers would like do something to me, like energetically. Like energetically, it would either like people on the 30th and 31st make me feel a little bit like on edge, but then people who are like 29, 27 feel like home, right? And I was like, oh, there's definitely something to that. So fast forward, I meet my fiance, like literally within that almost that same year, I met my fiance. And when I found out his birthday, that he was a 29, I didn't even know he was a 29. I didn't know his birthday. But when I first met him and hung out with him, I was like, whoa, like everything stopped. Everything stopped. He was like glowing, like an angel. Like he was glowing. Like there was a halo around him. And I was like, whoa, whoa. Like it was just like my whole world stopped. And that's how I felt when I met the girl. I was like, my whole world stopped. I was like, she's amazing. And so when I found out that his day was 29, I was like, holy crap, that makes all the sense. One thing I've noticed in numbers like 157, something about those numbers are very similar. 369, they have a similar energy, and 248 have a similar energy. There's a very similar energy in the 157, 369, 248. There's a very similar pattern. 157s are very fiery. They're very go-getter, freedom. Um, in a way, they have so much control, right? The 248s, they're builders, creators, establishers, right? Then the 369s, they're so feminine. They're so playful. They're so melodic and flowing, and something about the 369. They are the butterflies. They're very right. There's an energy to each to the lines of those things, right? Those numbers. And so I've noticed that I'm very close and drawn um, to the 248s and the 369s. 369. You have to say it. You have to say it. I had to say it. But I find that if you start to see who you're drawn to and who makes you feel this like this energy where you're like, ooh, I feel like I want to dance, I want to move, I feel alive, you'll start to understand that those numbers complete you in a way. They say that 9 is the number of completion in spirituality. And so sometimes, like for example, if someone's a 5 and you're a 4, you guys complete each other. It's crazy because one of my best friends, she's a 5 and I'm a 4. That's kind of why I gave that example. But they say that when you are a number and someone else is the counterpart of your number leading up to 9 or adding up to 9, you guys are like yin and yang. So I find that very interesting. But also going back to my last video about your parents, there's something also about the fact that we also are drawn to numbers that our parents are, our closest siblings are. And so there's something to that. There's something to observing the patterns that you see in yourself, that you feel in yourself when you are around certain numbers. And then also understanding the numbers that you grew up around and what numbers trigger you, right? But I will say that sometimes the numbers that are best for you are the numbers that trigger you, which is interesting because they'll help you to grow the most. They'll help you to experience your shadow self. They'll help you to confront the parts of yourself that need healing. And so I do find that my fiance, when he like, our love and our energy is like so powerful, but then when he triggers me, it's like it's like a large trigger. It's like my heartstrings. But then when we like figure it out and actually come together and heal from whatever trigger that was, or talk it out, then it's like, oh, it's home again. It's light, it's love. And so I find that there were times when I felt like I wanted to run because that trigger feeling is so triggering. It's so alarming. It's scary. And you don't want to feel that alarming, scary, triggering energy. It almost feels like, is this toxic? But technically it's just that part of you that is still trying to grow and heal past those wounds, right? And so you sit in the discomfort and you figure it out and you push forward and you make it to the other side, and it's just beyond, it's so powerful, it's so beautiful. You know, you chose not to run, you chose not to close yourself off, but instead open your heart up to something that might feel scary, right? So yeah, so I feel like that was a long roundabout of saying that you find your soulmate by observing the energies that move you, the numbers that move you. Yeah, those numbers, chances are you're going to be in a lifelong partnership with one of those numbers. Yeah. Yeah. I find it funny that one example that I didn't put in my last video of people being attracted to their parents' number is Beyonce's mom is a 4. She's a 4. And Jay-Z's a 4. And she's a huge 4 fan. She bigs up the 4 energy. And he called his album 444. She had, I think, something called 4. But numerology is real, man. This shit is real. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. That was just kind of my rant about soulmates, because I've been asked about soulmates and your SP and how to attract that using numerology. So hopefully that was good enough. But if you want more on this topic, I'll create more videos like this. That's your girl Sakina Iman, and thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.